Ohio State took down Youngstown State 35-7 in the Buckeyes home opener. That is Ohio State's 47th consecutive victory over in-state opponents. I'm going to get some of my negative feelings out there, kind of get my pessimistic viewpoint out there first. I'll talk about the game that was mostly good for Ohio State, but there were some opening sequences concern, especially for the defense, but they would wake up after the first drive. My current concern with this team is kind of similar to the one that I had early last season, where we look at these games against right now pretty easy opponents, but in moments where momentum is even between the two teams, I'm still questioning if the Buckeyes will be able to seize it against tougher competition, and it kind of looked like they would have after their first offensive drive went for that long touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison, but then Youngstown State comes back and scores their touchdown drive, and then the offense goes 3 and out, and then all of a sudden, if you're thinking if this team isn't Youngstown State and it's a team like Notre Dame that they have coming up, this team could put themselves in a hole early in the game and have to dig out of it, and that's not something we want to see, especially considering how we've seen Ohio State perform in the last couple of big games that they've played in. Now, the second through fourth quarter after that opening scare was the game again. It went quite how it had expected. We saw a lot more of Devin Brown in this one, although there was still a significant more amount of time and reps for Kyle McCord than Devin Brown. I will say on the defensive side, Denzel Burke starting to look like a player in the defensive backfield for Ohio State. But we'll see how he plays against tougher competition like Notre Dame. I mean, maybe it might be one thing against Indiana and Youngstown State receivers, but we'll see what happens when they start playing some more elite level teams. I'll kind of walk through this game a little bit. It's Ohio State and Youngstown State. I'm not exactly going to stick super close to the game-by-game sequences, but again, in the first quarter, a bit of a rough stretch for the defense. Youngstown State converting 3 of their 3 third downs on their opening drive to tie it up at 7. Then the next drive for Ohio State's a 3 and out, but then again, the defense woke up. They forced a stop. McCord hitting Marvin Harrison Jr. on another deep throw for another touchdown. By the way, Marvin Harrison Jr. had pretty much a full game stat line after just one quarter. He was insane today. At the end of the first quarter, score was 14-7. Linebacker Arvell Reese was hurt on a kickoff and didn't return to the game, so hopefully he's not going to be out for any prolonged period of time. Second quarter, the game starts to settle in. Devin Brown would get some reps at quarterback. He had a potential touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr., but he got called down on a pass interference that just wasn't called for some reason. Even the broadcast kind of called it out like, hey, that was a pretty obvious pass interference. Devin Brown converts a 4th and 7 try using his legs to extend the play and find G. Scott Jr. So again, Devin Brown getting to show off a little bit more than he was able to against Indiana. Ohio State had a touchdown run called back for holding, setting up a 3rd and 25, but it wasn't converted, but a late hit on Devin Brown extended the drive. A little bit of a ticky-tack late hit there. Then Trey Henderson had a clear touchdown run that was initially called a fumble. At this point, I was kind of personally getting a little frustrated by the refereeing, but not actually getting mad because, again, Ohio State should not be, and they wouldn't be, relying on referee results in order to take down Youngstown State. So the call was changed to a touchdown. It was 21-7. Devin Brown getting more to work with and looking better. Denzel Burke, like I've said, he looks better so far this season. McCord would come back in. He made a dangerous throw into double coverage, but he made up with it with a 3rd down conversion to Marvin Harrison. A 4th and 2 try ends in a touchdown off of a screen pass to Emeka Egbuka for his first touchdown of the year, and the half would end with a score 28-7. The game is pretty much wrapped up at this point. The second half mostly just played for posterity. Although on Youngstown State's first drive, it looked like the defense might not be able to get off the field until Denzel Burke had a jump ball interception in the end zone. The following Ohio State drive went nowhere really. Devin Brown was back in, had a nice pass before Trey Henderson had himself a long touchdown run, 35-7 to end of the third quarter. And if you were listening earlier in the video, that's what the final score would end up being. Fourth quarter, mostly irrelevant. Ohio State moving the ball. They actually did call a pass interference but on a defender on Marvin Harrison Jr. Mine Williams' touchdown run was called back for holding, and on a 4th and goal try, Devin Brown was sacked, and Ohio State stopped a 4th and 5 to end the game with 20-some seconds left before they went to a commercial break before playing out that final 20-some seconds. Got to make that ad money, I suppose, and Ohio State would win 35-7. So there were flashes of an elite offense in that game. There wasn't a whole lot of consistent flashes of elite offense. I feel like it kind of was hot and cold, but I think that could be a result of just quarterbacks switching in and out. It is kind of hard to keep that consistency going when you're having somebody else take snaps every other drive. If it were me making the decision, I would just personally start to just roll with Kyle McCord getting every snap from here on out. It seems pretty apparent that Ryan Day has more trust in him to run the offense, at least for the majority of the plays. He's getting all the starts. Devin Brown did get more playing time, but again, it was still a lot more of Kyle McCord. But maybe if they're trying to keep Devin Brown from transferring, they might do this song and dance for another week where, hey, it's Western Kentucky. We can have this 2-quarterback thing play out. But once again, once it hits Notre Dame week, the call has to be to just pick a quarterback and roll with it, or at least that should be the plan too, right? Like if they're going to say, hey, Kyle McCord's our starter for the Notre Dame game, but he has a horrible first half, then sure, put Devin Brown in if that's the case. But I feel like by Notre Dame week, there should be a plan to just have one quarterback playing for the entire game and no threat of, hey, we plan on putting this other guy in if you don't, if even there's an instant of you not playing well. So that's what I thought from this one. Not a whole lot to take away as far as what does this mean for Ohio State's future for the season, because, I mean, they beat a much worse team by a lot. I'm not trying to discredit Youngstown State. It's not their fault that college football is a system of haves and have-nots, and Ohio State's definitely a haves, and Youngstown State is on the other end of that spectrum in term relative to Ohio State, obviously. But, again, it's not Youngstown State's fault that that's the way it is, but that's just the reality of it. Ohio State probably should put up a game like this against Youngstown State 10 times out of 10. But you can let me know what you thought about this game down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you did make it this far, leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and would like to see more like it. And I'll see you at the next one.